everybody. So behind the words on the screen here, you see an image of the North American Prairie or Great Plains in Montana. This prairie ecosystem is incredibly valuable, supporting a wide assemblage of species, providing carbon sequestration, and provisioning socioeconomic benefits. But this prairie is at threat, with over 50% of the historical shortgrass prairie extent being lost in recent years. So my name is Noah, and my goal of this project is trying to understand how we can restore the American prairie broadly, but more specifically through understanding linkages between beaver dams and northern leopard frogs, which occupy this ecosystem. So the organization that I've been partnered with through this project is called American Prairie. Their goal is to create a restored and connected functioning prairie ecosystem through connecting private and public lands and creating a reserve with all the native species that originally resided in the area. My project focuses on a small subset of this prairie ecosystem, streams and riparian areas pictured here on the right. These areas cover less than 1% of the prairie landscape, but they are incredibly important as the prairie is very arid and relies on water to support its biodiversity. Again, these streams and riparian areas are under threat from human activities, such as agriculture and damming. So I dialed in on beaver dams, which are very important on streams and riparian areas. Beaver dams act as ecological engineers. They kind of create a meandering stream path, which supports the creation of ecological niches for different species. They raise the water table, as you can see here, and they also support increased vegetation. American Prairie has been piloting beaver dam analogs, which are human-created structures that are supposed to mimic the same ecological functions as these beaver dams. Kind of to measure the effectiveness of these beaver dams, I was specifically looking at these associations with northern leopard frogs, which are an amphibian species that resides in streams and riparian areas, and previous studies in other ecosystems has looked at the relationship with beaver dams. So I wanted to explore that in this prairie ecosystem. So my project kind of functioned as a preliminary field study. And so I formatted it with sort of a research hypothesis that I want to share with you. So my hypothesis was that the presence of a beaver dam or a beaver dam analog on a prairie stream creates a higher water table or higher water level and favorable vegetative qualities, which in turn supports the presence of these northern leopard frogs. So here you can see a map of the American Prairie boundaries, which is where I was doing the field study, and that little black rectangle up there is exactly where I was doing my surveys. And then here's just an up-close map of where exactly the sites were where I was doing my surveys. So I surveyed 12 different sites. The blue dots on the kind of bottom left are the beaver dam sites. The bottom right, the red dots are the beaver dam analog sites. And then kind of the top left and bottom right are my control sites that had neither of those. So what did my methodology look like? So first I started with field data collection, where I went to the prairie and I surveyed all these sites for leopard frogs, and I also collected a lot of other information about vegetative qualities and hydrological characteristics. Then after my field data collection in Montana, I went on to doing my data analysis using logistic regression modeling in R, and also just doing some qualitative observations. And so I was looking at two different response variables, so the beaver dams and the frog sightings, and looking at their associations with vegetative and hydrological characteristics, and also for the frog sightings, looking at their associations with the beaver dams. So I was kind of looking for what were the statistical associations between these things. So what were my results for this? So in all, I found 4 northern leopard frog individuals. Those were at 3 sites. 2 of those sites were beaver dams, and 1 of those sites was a control site. All the frogs that I found were directly in or next to a stream. And that could be for 2 reasons. One being that So one of the reasons that they were found directly in or next to a stream could be due to the fact that the frogs rely on the stream for their habitat, very importantly. Another reason could be low detection probability in this thick vegetation. Additionally, 5 out of the 12 stream sites that I surveyed did not have flowing water. These streams were ephemeral, and these frogs rely on streams with water. And unfortunately, all the beaver dam analog sites happened to be dry, meaning that I had to exclude them from my statistical analysis. And then, so I tested over 30 different models, looking at associations. None of the models were statistically significant, but that doesn't mean that there weren't any important associations that could be observed. And on the right, we have a picture of the dry beaver dam analog site. Okay, so I just want to share with you guys this box plot that I created looking at the percentage of bare ground at sites with the presence of a beaver dam. So as you can see here, all of the upstream and downstream areas, there were much lower percentages of bare ground at sites that had beaver dams. So the beaver dams are the green box plots, and you can see they're much lower bare ground for the upstream and downstream. So that really shows that beaver dams providing these favorable vegetative characteristics to these stream sites. As you can tell, the non-beaver dam sites have much higher levels of bare ground. So that's an interesting finding that I found as part of this project. So what are the management implications? Oh, sorry, I'm gonna go this. So what are some future study recommendations as I was kind of conducting a preliminary study? So one, it'll be important to sample additional sites for this project to kind of have a more complete data set. Two, it will be important to measure more vegetative quadrats per site to get a more complete data set with vegetation data and have it be more robust. Three, it's important to adjust the sampling period to a different time, potentially to August, where the juvenile tadpoles have metamorphosized into adult frogs, so there are more adult frog individuals to look at. Four, it'll be important to build up the beaver dam location database using citizen science, so allowing there to be a database of coordinates of all beaver dams in the area. And then the last study recommendation is to sample only sites with flowing water, because again, these frogs generally do not associate with dry areas. Okay. So I just want to talk about the management implications of what I've been doing. So just broadly, this research shows that it's very important to continue preserving and protecting riparian areas on the American Prairie. They are such a small subset of the ecosystem, but they support such a variety of species and processes. And especially with the increased vegetative recruitment of the beaver dams, it really shows a positive benefit to the ecosystem that really needs to be explored through future studies and looking more closely at that relationship between the frogs and the beaver dams. So I just wanted to thank everyone who helped me with this project. Special thanks to Dr. Robert Rose, Dr. Daniel Kinka, Erica, Garu, Dr. Pallabi Kundu, and Dr. Mitchell Sirota, who all helped me with this project and supported me and guided me along the way. Thank you.
Greetings from Lewistown, Montana. Daniel Kinka, the Director of Rewilding American Prairie. And I just wanted to express my gratitude to NOAA and William and Mary's Institute for Integrative Conservation for their help in helping us research the work of our colleagues doing beaver dam analogs, riparian restoration at American Prairie, and what impact that has on both vegetation and wildlife, including northern leopard frogs. Thanks to NOAA's work, I think we have a better understanding of where these things work and where they don't. Namely, beaver dam analogs in dry earth streams have fewer biological consequences than we may have expected and seem to do more hydrological work. And in wetter areas, beaver dams are doing things that we expect, which is sequestering water, growing different kinds of vegetation across larger areas, and supporting things like northern leopard frogs. On a personal level, it was also, I learned quite a lot about working with undergraduate students and William and Mary's program, thanks to NOAA, and in a good way. I was very pleased to find that both her and Pallabi were incredibly self-sufficient while they were in the field, which means that I was able to spend my time working with NOAA as an intellectual peer rather than someone who needed help kind of getting around out there. And that's no small feat if you've ever been to American Prairie. Thank you very much for the opportunity. NOAA, I wish you all the best, although I know you don't get any luck. I'm proud of what you came up with, and I look forward to working with William and Mary and the IIC going forward. Take care.